मंत्री बंदरे विकास माननीय नामदार श्री संजय बनसोडे साहेब यांचं इथे आगमन झालंय। एकदा टाळ्या वाजवून आपण माननीय मंत्री महोदयांचं स्वागत करूया। हो, मंत्री महोदयांना विनंती आहे त्यांनी कृपया व्यासपीठावरती आसनस्थ व्हावं। नमस्कार, सुस्वागतम। जवाहरलाल नेहरू पोर्ट प्राधिकरण प्रस्तुत लोकसत्ता पोर्ट्स कॉन्क्लेव्ह मध्ये उपस्थित मान्यवरांचं आणि सहभागी लोकसत्ताच्या वाचकांचं लोकसत्ता वृत्तपत्र समूहाच्या वतीने मी कुणाल रेगे सूत्रसंचालक मनपूर्वक स्वागत करतो। या कॉन्क्लेव्हचे सहप्रयोजक आहेत मुंबई पतन प्राधिकरण, कॉर्पोरेट प्रायोजक आहेत CII। एकदा जोरदार टाळ्या ह्या सगळ्यांसाठी झाल्या पाहिजे। या सगळ्यांच्या सहकार्यामुळे ही कॉन्क्लेव्ह आज पार पडते। 720 किलोमीटरचा सागरी किनारा लाभलेला आणि 2 मोठ्या बंदरांसह अनेक छोटी बंदरे असलेला महाराष्ट्र देशाच्याच नव्हे तर आशिया खंडातील सागरी व्यापार आणि वाहतुकीचं केंद्र कसा बनेल यावरती आज आपण उहापोह करणार आहोत। बंदरांची सध्याची स्थिती काय आहे, व्यापार आणि निर्यातीमधील महाराष्ट्राचं एकूण चित्र काय असेल आणि भविष्यातील बंदरांचा विकास यावर आज दिवसभर मंथन होणार आहे या लोकसत्ता पोर्ट्स कॉन्क्लेव्हमध्ये। यामध्ये आज माननीय मंत्री महोदय सुद्धा सहभागी झालेले आहेत। तेव्हा या कॉन्क्लेव्हची सुरुवात जी आहे ती आपण औपचारिकतेने करूया। त्यासाठी सर्वप्रथम व्यासपीठावरती मान्यवर मंत्री महोदय उपस्थित आहेत। पुन्हा एकदा मी आपल्याला विनंती करतो, एकदा जोरदार टाळ्या महाराष्ट्र राज्याचे सन्माननीय मंत्री बंदरे विकास माननीय नामदार श्री संजय बनसोडे साहेब यांच्यासाठी। आणि त्यांचं स्वागत करण्याची विनंती माननीय श्री राजीव जलोटा साहेब, चेअरमन आहेत मुंबई पोर्ट ट्रस्टचे, यांना विनंती करतो त्यांनी कृपया व्यासपीठावरती यावं। त्यांच्या हस्ते आपण माननीय मंत्री महोदयांचं स्वागत करूया। माननीय मंत्री महोदयांचं खूप खूप स्वागत। आपल्याला विनंती करतो आपण कृपया आसनस्थ व्हावं। हे जे संपूर्ण कॉन्क्लेव्ह आहे जे लोकसत्तानी आयोजित केलेलं आहे याची नेमकी भूमिका काय आहे याची प्रास्ताविक करण्यासाठी लोकसत्ताचे सन्माननीय सहाय्यक संपादक श्री विकास महाडिक यांना मी विनंती करतो त्यांनी कृपया व्यासपीठावरती यावं। ते आपल्या समोर प्रास्ताविक मांडतील।
नमस्कार। सर्वात अगोदर सर्वांना नवीन वर्षाच्या मनपूर्वक शुभेच्छा लोकसत्ताच्या वतीने देतो। लोकसत्ताच्या वतीने देशातलं अग्रगण्य दैनिक लोकसत्ता यांच्या वतीने पहिल्यांदाच आपल्या वर्तमान सृष्टीमध्ये किंबहुना मराठी वर्तमान सृष्टीत पहिल्यांदाच पोर्ट्स कॉन्क्लेव्ह इथे आयोजित करण्यात आलेली आहे। आणि या कॉन्क्लेव्हसाठी उपस्थित असलेले राज्याचे बंदर विकास मंत्री संजय बनसोडे साहेब यांचं मी लोकसत्ताच्या वतीने मनपूर्वक स्वागत करतो। बंधू आणि भगिनींनो, आपण इथे आलात त्याबद्दल पुन्हा एकदा लोकसत्ताच्या वतीने मी आपले आभार मानतो। आणि हा कॉन्क्लेव्ह का घेण्याचा उद्देश आला किंवा का उद्देश आहे त्याचं इथे थोडक्यात प्रास्ताविक मी इथे मांडतो। देशामध्ये आजच्या घडीला एक 9 राज्यातून समुद्रकिनारा आहे, 9 राज्यांना समुद्रकिनारा मिळालेला आहे। त्याच्यात 2 केंद्रशासित राज्य आहेत, 2 बेटं आहेत, म्हणजे सुमारे 7516 किलोमीटरचा समुद्रकिनारा या संपूर्ण देशाला लाभलेला आहे। आणि या सगळ्या ह्याच्यामध्ये आपल्या महाराष्ट्राला 720 किलोमीटर लांबीचा समुद्रकिनारा लाभलेला आहे आणि याची रुंदी 30 ते 60 किलोमीटरच्या दरम्यान आहे। म्हणजे हा समुद्रकिनारा केरळ, कर्नाटक, गोवा, वेस्ट बंगाल, ओडिसा या संपूर्ण राज्यांपेक्षा आपल्याला मोठा आहे, जास्त लाभलेला आहे। आणि समुद्र किनाऱ्यामुळे किंवा तिथे जी काही बंदरं विकसित होतात त्यामुळे कसा विकास होतो, कसा बदल होतो याचं एक उदाहरण म्हणजे JNPT बंदर आपल्याला बघायला मिळतंय किंवा त्यापूर्वीचं मुंबई पोर्ट ट्रस्टचं बंदर आपल्याला बघता येईल। मुंबई किंवा नवी मुंबई या दोन्ही शहरांचा जो काही विकास, भरभराट, प्रगती झालेली असेल ती ह्या बंदरांमुळे झालेली आहे असं म्हटलं तर काय ते चुकीचं ठरणार नाही। आणि त्यामुळे लोकसत्ताच्या वतीने आज दिवसभरात बंदर आणि विकास, त्याची प्रगती या सगळ्या गोष्टींवर चर्चा होणार आहे। पहिल्यांदा आपण जे काही चर्चा करणार आहोत ती बंदराकडून बदलाकडे, म्हणजे किती सुंदर एक कॉन्सेप्ट इथे राबवली गेलेली आहे। आणि संपूर्ण मला सांगायला अभिमान वाटेल, मराठी किंवा इंग्रजी वर्तमानसृष्टीत पहिल्यांदाच अशा पद्धतीची हा संकल्पना राबवण्यात आलेली आहे. आणि आज पहिल्यांदा या सगळ्या कार्यक्रमाला बनसोडे साहेब आलेले आहेत. तर हा संपूर्ण महाराष्ट्राचा जो यानंतरची जी प्रगती आहे ती कशा प्रकारे होणार आहे, कशा प्रकारे याच्यात व्यापार आणि इतर सगळ्या गोष्टींचं आयात निर्यात आपल्याला लाभणार आहे, ती या सगळ्या ह्याच्यातून पूर्ण दिवसभर मंथन होणार आहे. म्हणजे केवळ JNPT किंवा BPT पोर्ट हे जे काही मोठी बंदरं आहेत आणि छोटी मोठी एक 51 आहेत, या सगळ्यांच्यामधून बंदरांमुळे $73 अब्ज इतकी निर्यात आयात या सगळ्या गोष्टींवर आर्थिक उलाढाल या देशामध्ये होऊ शकलेली आहे, महाराष्ट्रामध्ये होऊ शकलेली आहे. केंद्र सरकार आणि राज्य सरकार बंदर विकास कसा होईल या बाबतीत खूप चांगल्या पद्धतीने आणि बारकाईने लक्ष देत आहे. त्याच्यामुळे इव्हन वॉटर ट्रान्सपोर्ट या बंदरामुळे होते, ती प्रगतीचं एक मोठं पाऊल आहे. म्हणजे आज जरी सी लिंक वगैरे तयार होत असतील किंवा कितीही उड्डाणपूल तयार होत असतील, तरी मुंबई किंवा नवी मुंबईला जोडणारी जी काही वॉटर ट्रान्सपोर्ट आहे ही सगळ्यात जास्त जलद वाहतुकीचं साधन निर्माण झालेलं आहे. त्यामुळे बंदर आणि पाणी ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टींचं महत्त्व जे काय विद्यमान सरकारला कळलंय आणि लोकसत्तांनी तीच गोष्ट नेमकी अचूक घेतलेली आहे आणि त्याच्यात पहिला हा कॉन्क्लेव्ह आयोजित केलेला आहे. यापूर्वी लोकसत्ताने प्रत्येक क्षेत्राला हात घालता येईल, तिथल्या तज्ज्ञांशी जाणकारांशी संपूर्ण बोलता येईल आणि समाजाला या सगळ्या ज्ञानाचा कसा काय फायदा होईल याची काळजी लोकसत्ताने घेतलेली आहे. म्हणूनच यापूर्वीचं इंडस्ट्री कॉन्क्लेव्ह असेल, टुरिझम कॉन्क्लेव्ह असेल किंवा रिअल इस्टेट कॉन्क्लेव्ह असेल, या सगळ्या कॉन्क्लेव्ह अतिशय लोकांनी त्याला उत्तम प्रतिसाद दिलेला आहे. शहरबान हे गेल्या वर्षी चाललेलं जे संपूर्ण शहराचं भान आणि ज्ञान संपूर्ण प्रत्येक वाचकाला, प्रत्येक लोकांना, नागरिकांना मिळावं. आपल्या शहरात काय चाललंय, कोणते प्रोजेक्ट होत आहेत, कसे होत आहेत, त्याच्यावर काय सरकार करतंय, आपण काय केलं पाहिजे, आपली भूमिका काय, ही त्या शहरबानमधून मांडली गेलेली आहे. आणि लोकसत्तेचा शहरबान अतिशय राज्यात खूप मोठ्या प्रमाणात पॉप्युलर झाला, प्रसिद्ध झाला, त्याला प्रतिसाद मिळाला. आणि हे शहरबान प्रत्येक शहरांमध्ये व्हावं असं सातत्याने लोकांकडून, वाचकांकडून मागणी होते. आणि या सगळ्यात साखळीमध्ये शृंखलेत एक आपल्याला हा कॉन्क्लेव्ह आजचा जो आपण पोर्ट्स कॉन्क्लेव्ह आयोजित केलेला आहे, त्याच्यामध्ये पहिल्या सत्रामध्ये सरांच्या हस्ते या सगळ्याचं उद्घाटन झालंय. त्यांनी वेळ दिला त्याबद्दल आभारी आहोत. आणि पहिल्या टप्प्यामध्ये बंदराकडून बदलाकडे किंवा दुसऱ्या टप्प्यामध्ये या बंदरामधले जे काही क्षितिज आहेत, ज्या संधी आहेत, त्यांचा इथे संपूर्ण चर्चा दिवसभरात होणार आहे. आणि लोकसत्ता अशाच पद्धतीने लोकांच्या वाचकांपर्यंत जास्तीत जास्त कसं पोहोचता येईल आणि एक वेगळं वाचकांना कसं देता येईल याचा प्रयत्न सातत्याने करत आलेला आहे. आणि त्यातलाच हा एक पहिला भाग आहे, जी पहिली सुरुवात आहे कॉन्क्लेव्ह, पोर्ट्स कॉन्क्लेव्हच्या बाबतीत. आणि महाराष्ट्राला खूप मोठा चांगला समुद्र किनारा लाभलेला आहे, त्याचा कसा उपयोग करता येईल आणि याच्यात रोजगाराच्या कशी संधी निर्माण होतील. एक कुठलं तरी बंदर झालं तर केवळ आयात निर्यात आणि व्यापारच होत नाही, तर या सगळ्या ह्याच्यातून इतर काही ज्या रोजगाराच्या संधी असतात, छोटे छोटे उद्योग असतात, ट्रान्सपोर्ट असतं, ह्या सगळ्या संधी उपलब्ध याच पोर्ट्स मुळे होत असतात. त्यामुळे पोर्ट्स जास्तीत जास्त व्हावेत यासाठी केंद्र आणि राज्य सरकार प्रयत्न करत आहे. मी पुन्हा एकदा बनसोडे सरांचं मनापासून इथे स्वागत करतो आणि माझी प्रस्तावना थांबवतो. धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद विकासजी, खूप खूप आभार. यानंतर आता महाराष्ट्र राज्याचे सन्माननीय मंत्री बंदरे विकास माननीय नामदार श्री संजय बनसोडे साहेब यांना विनंती करतो, या कॉन्क्लेव्ह मध्ये ते आपली भूमिका मांडतील.
नमस्कार. आजच्या या अतिशय दिमागदार सोहळ्यामध्ये उपस्थित मुंबई पोर्ट ट्रस्टचे प्रमुख आमचे मित्र राजीवजी जलोटा साहेब, मेरिटाईम बोर्डाचे सीओ माणिकजी गुरसाळजी, अदानी पोर्ट्सचे सीओ सुब्रता त्रिपाठीजी, CIIचे चेअरमॅन डॉक्टर नंदकुमारजी, थोड्याच वेळामध्ये आपल्यामध्ये उपस्थित राहणारे आपल्या महाराष्ट्रातले एक आदर्श व्यक्तिमत्व म्हणून ज्यांचं नाव घेतो आपण, ते लोकसत्तेचे संपादक श्री गुरेश कुबेर सर, निवेदक कुणाल रेंगेजी, आत्ताच ज्यांचं आपण प्रास्ताविक ऐकलं ते विकासजी महाडिक, आमचे मित्र संतोषजी प्रधान व लोकसत्ता ग्रुपचे उपस्थित सगळेच सहाय्यक उपसंपादक आणि सर्व उपस्थित मान्यवर बंधू आणि भगिनींनो, सर्वप्रथम मी आपणा सर्वांना नवीन वर्षाच्या खूप खूप हार्दिक शुभेच्छा देतो. लोकसत्ता आपल्या देशामध्ये सर्वदूर पसरलेल्या ग्रुपने आयोजित कार्यक्रमात आपल्या सर्वांसमेत संवाद साधणे व आपणास संबोधित करणे ही मी माझ्यासाठी गौरवपूर्ण बाब समजतो. लोकसत्तेचे संपादक माननीय गिरीश कुबेर साहेबांनी हा पुढाकार घेऊन पोर्ट्स संदर्भामध्ये चर्चासत्र या ठिकाणी आयोजित केलं. याबद्दल मी त्यांचे व त्यांच्या टीमचे व्यक्तिशः अभिनंदन करतो आणि महाराष्ट्र शासनाच्या बंदरे विभागाचा मंत्री या नात्यानं आभार सुद्धा या ठिकाणी मी व्यक्त करतो. आत्ताच प्रास्ताविकामध्ये आपण ऐकलात सगळेजण की राज्यातील सामान्य जनतेला बंदराचं महत्व, सध्या स्थिती, व्यापार आणि निर्यातीत राज्याचं योगदान आणि भविष्यातील बंदराचा विकास यावर प्रकाशझोत यातून या ठिकाणी टाकल्या जाईल. वाचकांनी याची अद्ययावत माहिती सुद्धा या चर्चासत्रामधून त्या ठिकाणी मिळेल. सुरुवातीलाच या चर्चासत्राचं उद्घाटक या नात्यानं उद्घाटन झालं असं या ठिकाणी मी जाहीर करतो. केंद्र सरकारची भूमिका गत वर्षीच्या आर्थिक वर्षात निर्यात वाढवण्यासाठी अनुकूल आहे आणि जवळजवळ 73 अब्ज डॉलर्सची निर्यात झाली होती. ती या बंदरामार्फत अधिक त्या ठिकाणची होती. या चर्चासत्रामधून निश्चितच सकारात्मक बाब त्या ठिकाणी समोर येतील. आपल्या सगळ्यांना कल्पना आहे की महाराष्ट्र राज्याने सागरी क्षेत्रात अत्यंत महत्त्वपूर्ण भूमिका बजावली आहे. 17व्या शतकापासून राज्याचा हा गौरवशाली इतिहास छत्रपती शिवाजी महाराज यांनी सागरी क्षेत्राचे राजकीय महत्त्व लक्षात घेऊन 1664 दरम्यान कल्याण येथे पहिले मराठा नौसेनेचे जहाज निर्माण केले होते. जवळजवळ 720 किलोमीटर असलेल्या या तटीय क्षेत्रात 2 मोठे बंदर आपल्या राज्यामध्ये त्या ठिकाणी आहेत आणि 48 छोटे बंदरे म्हणजे महाराष्ट्राचे आपल्या भारताबरोबरचं व्यापाराचे एक प्रवेशद्वार आहे असं मी या ठिकाणी समजतो. सन 2022-23 मध्ये महाराष्ट्र सागरी व्यापारामध्ये खूप मोठी वाढ झाल्याचं दिसून आले आहे. या छोट्या बंदरावर 71 मिलियन टन इतकी कार्गो हाताळणी झाली आहे. ही वाढ जवळजवळ 70% इतकी आहे. महाराष्ट्र राज्याची सागरी क्षेत्रावर आधारित अर्थव्यवस्था सक्षम बनवण्यासाठी महाराष्ट्र शासन या बंदरावर हायड्रोजन हब स्थापन करणे, LNG बंकर रिंग, खोल ड्राफ्ट असलेल्या बंदरे विकसित करणे याबाबतची योजना त्या ठिकाणी आम्ही राबवत त्या ठिकाणी आहोत. तसेच रेल्वे, समुद्रीय व जलमार्ग यांना जोडणारा मल्टी मॉडल कनेक्टिव्हिटी विकसित करण्यासाठी PM गती शक्ती योजनेअंतर्गत सुद्धा आम्ही त्या ठिकाणी प्रयत्न करीत आहोत. आपण सगळे जाणतो की सागरी वाहतूक ही परिवहन करण्यासाठी फायदेशीर आहे. त्याचबरोबर पर्यावरण पूरक, वेळ व इंधनाची बचत करणारी वाहतूक त्या ठिकाणची आहे. सध्या स्थितीत राज्यामध्ये 34 जलमार्ग सुरू असून सुमारे 1,08,00,000 म्हणजे करोड प्रवासी या जलवाहतुकीतून त्या ठिकाणी प्रवास करीत आहेत. यातील अनेक खाड्या बंदरामार्गे एका किनाऱ्यावरून दुसऱ्या किनाऱ्यावर जाण्यासाठी वापरण्यात येतात. यामुळे मोठ्या प्रमाणात वेळ, इंधन व शक्तीची बचत होते. काही मार्गावर खाडी पार करण्यासाठी जलमार्गाद्वारे केवळ 5 ते 10 मिनिटं लागतात. मात्र रस्त्यानं हेच अंतर आपल्याला कापण्यासाठी किंवा जाण्यासाठी 2 ते 3 तास इतका कालावधी त्या ठिकाणी लागतो. याचं चांगलं उदाहरण म्हणजे मुंबई ते मांडवा या जलमार्गावर रोबॅक्स नौका सुरू असून 1 तासात ते अंतर त्या ठिकाणी पूर्ण करते. आणि रस्त्याच्या मार्गाने जर त्या ठिकाणी गेलं तर आपल्याला 4 तास त्या ठिकाणी लागतात. म्हणजे एवढं वेळ त्या ठिकाणी लागत असतो. आणि म्हणून रोरोचा सेवेचा अनुभव अत्यंत रोमांचक, मनोरंजक व आनंददायी आहे. मी आपणास विनंती करतो, आपण या सेवेचा आनंद त्या ठिकाणी घ्यावा अशी सुद्धा आपल्याला विनंती या ठिकाणी मी करतो. अनेक गोष्टी बोलण्यासारख्या आहेत. आज जवळजवळ महाराष्ट्र सागरी मंडळाच्या अखत्यारीत असे एकूण 19 जलमार्गासह जलप्रवासी सेवा देण्याच्या अनेक योजना त्या ठिकाणी आहेत. उदाहरणामध्ये मुंबई काशीद, मुंबई दिघी, वसई भाईंदर या मार्गावर प्रवासी जल सेवा सुरू करण्यात येत आहे. या अनुषंगाने मी आपणास सांगू इच्छितो की मी या खात्याचा कारभार घेतल्यानंतर एका महिन्यात जलोटा साहेब सागरी विकास धोरण 2023 आम्ही त्या ठिकाणी मंजूर करून घेतलं. म्हणजे मंत्रिपदाचा कारभार घेतल्यानंतर या सगळ्यांनी अगोदर ती व्यवस्थितरित्या की विकासक आपल्या राज्यामध्ये कसे येतील, त्या विकासकांना कशा पद्धतीने ती आपली धोरण त्यांना चांगल्या पद्धतीनं त्याला हे मिळालं पाहिजे, म्हणून हे आम्ही ते ठिकाणी धोरण घेतलं. म्हणून आपण सुद्धा हे धोरण, विनंती आहे आपल्याला की हे धोरण पाहावे. कारण केंद्र शासनाच्या महत्वाकांक्षी मॅरिटाईम व्हिजन 2047 लक्षात घेता महाराष्ट्र शासनाने म्हणजे बंदरे विभागाने महाराष्ट्र सागरी विकास धोरण 2023 प्रसिद्ध केला असून यामध्ये सध्या स्थितीतील बंदराचा विकास, सागरी पर्यटन, जहाज निर्मिती, रिसायकलिंग उद्योग यासोबतच्या बंदराची कनेक्टिव्हिटी या बाबीवर विशेष लक्ष देण्यात आलेले आहे. बंदर विकास धोरण 2016-2019 मध्ये सुधारणा करून महाराष्ट्र सागरी विकास मंडळ धोरण 2023 मध्ये उद्योग विभागाच्या धोरणाच्या अनुरूप बंदराचे मायक्रो, लहान, मध्यम, मोठे व मेगा बंदर अशा प्रकारच्या बंदराचे वर्गीकरण केले आहे. यामुळे उद्योग व बंदरे अशा प्रकारे बंदराचे वर्गीकरण केले आहे. यामुळे उद्योग व बंदरे क्षेत्रातील वाढ एकमेकांना पूरक त्या ठिकाणी ठरणार आहे. या धोरणांतर्गत अनेक सुविधा आणि प्रोत्साहन त्या ठिकाणी देण्यात आलेले आहेत. बंदरांना देण्यात आलेल्या सवलतीचा कालावधी त्या ठिकाणी वाढवण्यात आलेला आहे. जवळजवळ काहींना 30, बरोबर आहे गुलसा साहेब, काहींना 60 वर्ष, म्हणजे एवढा कालावधी आपण त्या ठिकाणी वाढवलेला आहे. या धोरणाचं महत्वाचं वैशिष्ट्य म्हणजे वॉटरफ्रंट रॉयल्टीचा दर यापूर्वी खूप जास्त होता. त्यामुळे विकासक आपल्या राज्यात येण्यास उत्सुक त्या ठिकाणी नव्हते. म्हणजे या धोरणामुळे वॉटरफ्रंट रॉयल्टीचा दर प्रत्येक 5 वर्षानंतर केवळ 3% इतका त्या ठिकाणी राहणार आहे. म्हणून अनेक विकासक आता आपल्या राज्याकडे येण्यासाठी इच्छुक असल्याचे दिसून येत आहेत आणि विकासकांनी सुद्धा त्या ठिकाणी आले पाहिजे असं मी राज्याचा मंत्री म्हणून त्या ठिकाणी मी आपल्याला सांगू इच्छितो की हाय स्पीड डिझेल वरील व्हॅट वरील त्या ठिकाणी सूट देण्यात आलेली आहे. पर्यटनामध्ये अनेक सवलती त्या ठिकाणी देण्यात आलेल्या आहेत. शिपयार्ड बनवण्यासाठी देखील सवलती दिलेल्या आहेत. या व्यतिरिक्त अनेक सवलती या धोरणामध्ये आम्ही त्या ठिकाणी दिलेल्या आहेत. आणि म्हणून शेवटी मी आपणास आश्वासित करू इच्छितो की महाराष्ट्र राज्याच्या सागरी विकासासाठी राज्य शासन नवीन विकासकांना संधी देण्यासाठी आम्ही उत्सुक आहोत. जे जे काही तुम्हाला फॅसिलिटी लागतील त्या देण्याचं काम आम्ही त्या ठिकाणी करूया. इथं जलोटा साहेब उपस्थित आहेत, त्यांचं सुद्धा मी मनापासून कौतुक आणि अभिनंदन सुद्धा मी या ठिकाणी करतो. कारण जागतिक लेवलची सागरी कॉन्फरन्स आपल्या मुंबईमध्ये त्या ठिकाणी त्यांनी आयोजित केली आणि त्या कॉन्फरन्सचं उद्घाटन देशाचे महान पंतप्रधान ज्यांना आपण विश्वगुरु संबोधतो ते नरेंद्र मोदी साहेबांच्या शुभ हस्ते त्याचं उद्घाटन त्या ठिकाणी झालं आणि खूप चांगलं चर्चासत्र आपल्या जगातले लोक येऊन मुंबईमध्ये त्या ठिकाणी घडवून आणले आणि म्हणून त्यांचं सुद्धा मी कौतुक या ठिकाणी करतो. आणि आपण महाराष्ट्र राज्याला आणि सागरी क्षेत्राला सर्वजण मिळून समृद्ध करूया आणि खूप चांगलं चर्चासत्र आज लोकसत्तेच्या माध्यमातून त्यांच्या ग्रुपने या ठिकाणी आयोजित केलं. मी मनापासून या चर्चासत्राच्या उद्घाटनाला मला आपण या ठिकाणी बोलवलात त्याबद्दल मी तुमचे मनापासून या ठिकाणी आभार व्यक्त करतो आणि थांबतो. जय हिंद, जय महाराष्ट्र. खरं तर मला दिवसभर तुमच्यासोबत थांबायचं होतं पण कॅबिनेट 12 वाजता आहे आणि त्या कॅबिनेटमध्ये माझा विषय असल्यामुळे मला त्या ठिकाणी जावं लागणार आहे. आमचे सीओ माणिकजी गुरसाळ साहेब आहेत, आमचे दुसरे प्रशासकीय अधिकारी बडियाजी या ठिकाणी उपस्थित राहणार आहेत आणि तुमच्या सगळे जे विकासक महत्वाचे आलेले आहेत त्यांच्या काही अडचणी असतील किंवा त्यांना काही प्रॉब्लेम असतील किंवा काही त्यांना बोलायचं असेल तर आमचे सीओ त्याच्याशी चर्चा करतील आणि तुमच्या सगळ्या प्रश्नाचे उत्तर आणि तुम्हाला जे जे काही मदत लागेल ते मदत करण्याचं काम आमचे सीओ त्या ठिकाणी करतील एवढं या प्रसंगी सांगतो आणि मला जायला परवानगी द्यावी अशी सुद्धा मी या ठिकाणी विनंती करतो.
धन्यवाद साहेब, खूप खूप आभार. अगदी 2 मिनिटं आपण थांबावं अशी आपल्याला विनंती आहे. अत्यंत विस्तृत असा विषय माननीय मंत्री महोदयांनी आपल्यासमोर या कॉन्क्लेव्हच्या माध्यमातून मांडला. यानंतर आपण माननीय मंत्री महोदयांना लोकसत्ताच्या वतीने एक छोटीशी भेटवस्तू देणार आहे. त्यासाठी ती भेटवस्तू देण्यासाठी मी डॉक्टर नंदकुमार के साहेब माननीय चेअरमन आहेत CII महाराष्ट्राचे त्यांना विनंती करतो त्यांनी कृपया व्यासपीठावरती यावं. त्यांच्या हस्ते आपण माननीय मंत्री महोदयांना एक छोटीशी भेटवस्तू देऊया लोकसत्तातर्फे. पुन्हा एकदा जोरदार टाळ्या आपल्या सगळ्यांकडून अपेक्षित आहेत. माननीय मंत्री महोदयांचे खूप खूप आभार. यानंतर काही क्षणांचा अगदी 5 मिनिटातच आपण पुढच्या चर्चासत्राला सुरुवात करूया. धन्यवाद, खूप खूप आभार सर. यानंतर लगेचच आपण पुढच्या सत्राला सुरुवात करतो आहोत. उद्घाटनाचं जे सत्र आहे ते इथे पूर्ण होतं आणि चर्चासत्राला आता आपण सुरुवात करूया. यानंतर आता आपण थेट पहिल्या संवाद सत्राला सुरुवात करणार आहोत. त्यासाठी मी मान्यवरांना इथे या व्यासपीठावरती आमंत्रित करतो. सर्वप्रथम माननीय श्री राजीव जलोटा साहेब माननीय चेअरमन मुंबई पोर्ट ट्रस्ट सर, आपल्याला विनंती आपण कृपया व्यासपीठावरती यावं. एकदा जोरदार टाळ्या त्यांच्यासाठी. यानंतर मी आमंत्रित करतो माननीय श्री माणिक गुरसाल साहेब यांना. माननीय CEO आहेत महाराष्ट्र मेरीटाईम बोर्ड. एकदा जोरदार टाळ्या त्यांच्यासाठी झाल्या पाहिजे. I'd like to call upon a stage Shri Manik Gursal sir, Honorable CEO महाराष्ट्र मेरीटाईम बोर्ड. यानंतर मी आमंत्रित करतो श्री सुब्रता त्रिपाठी साहेब यांना. एकदा जोरदार टाळ्या त्यांच्यासाठी झाल्या पाहिजे. माननीय CEO आहेत अदानी पोर्ट्स अँड सेज. प्लीज वेलकम सर. यानंतर मी आमंत्रित करतो डॉक्टर नंदकुमार के साहेब यांना. ऑनरेबल चेअरमन CII महाराष्ट्र अँड CMD केमट्रोल्स इंडस्ट्रीज. एकदा जोरदार टाळ्या त्यांच्यासाठी झाल्या पाहिजे. आणि या मान्यवरांशी संवाद साधण्याकरिता मी आमंत्रित करतो द इंडियन एक्सप्रेस समूहाचे नॅशनल बिझनेस एडिटर श्री अनिल सासी यांना. प्लीज वेलकम सर. एकदा जोरदार टाळ्या माननीय अनिल सासी सरांसाठी. आणि पुढची सगळी सूत्र जी आहेत ती मी त्यांना सुपूर्द करतो. ओव्हर टू यू सर.
Good morning and welcome to this panel discussion. Just to set the context for what promises to be a very enriching, discussion on an issue where you have the insiders right here, all of the people who are in the thick of things. I'd start with maybe a brief overview. It's a known fact that since the start of maritime trade, the role that the port sector has played in acting as gateways to civilization, in catalyzing growth, in in being a big reason why certain civilizations, economies, countries have prospered, and others that haven't, that perhaps have not looked at the sector the way they ought to. And in that context, we need to remember that almost 80% of merchandise trade today happens via the sea route. And that's in value, in volume terms, but in value terms, a lot of containerization is happening. These are progressive trends that are happening across the globe, and India is no exception to the change. And when we talk of infrastructure being catalysts for growth, the ports sector is perhaps the apt example. It is a sector where the potential to ramp up economic output, the potential to improve consumption, the ability to improve the trend line, the growth trend line of countries, a lot depends on this very crucial infrastructure sector. And there's no better proof of this than the state of Maharashtra, and others, of course, like Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. But Maharashtra is a state that has done well on this count and continues to do well. So against this backdrop, we have this extremely relevant panel discussion, which is titled "Ports: A Catalyst," unveiling the Maharashtra growth story. And we have an eminent list of panelists. We have Mr. Rajiv Jalota, he needs no introduction. He's the chairman of the Mumbai Port Trust and a sort of a key catalyst, if I can use that word, for the sector in Maharashtra and elsewhere. We have Dr. Manik Gursal, CEO of the Maharashtra Maritime Board, Mr. Subrata Tripathi, CEO of Adani Ports and SEZ, and Dr. Nandakumar K. He's chairman of CII Maharashtra, and he's also CMD of Chemtrol's Industries. So welcome to all of you. I'll start with Mr. Jalota. Mumbai Ports, it's rightly been sort of called the gateway to Mumbai, not just because of its location, but of course the role that it's played in in the development of Bombay and Mumbai as a maritime hub, as a big cosmopolitan city, a city of change. So the Mumbai port has essentially been a bulk cargo terminal, with much of the containerized cargo traffic being handled at the across the harbor at Nhava Sheva. So my question to you is, how does one of the oldest, almost venerated infrastructure landmarks of the country, how does it reinvent itself at a time when there are new opportunities that are beckoning? There is the PLI-led manufacturing growth push, which would eventually lead to a merchandise export potential. There's obviously the growing anticipation about the green hydrogen and green ammonia potential that's probably in the works. There is the whole lithium ion value chain, where India is trying to sort of belatedly get into, but it would mean a lot of imports and exports of crucial minerals, not just lithium, but graphite, cobalt, nickel, and perhaps exports of batteries from India at a later stage. And of course, this China plus one strategy that the world is sort of looking at, where India is seen as a second option, as an option that is a counterweight to China. So, given all of this, how does the oldest port see itself transforming?
Thank you. I think you have raised several issues in your question. In fact, as you already stated, that port is the gateway to any development of a country, because without the EXIM trade, we will not be able to consume the various goods and services which we enjoy, because all countries are interdependent, depending on their capabilities of resources. So, like Mumbai port and several other ports, because earlier port sector was majorly uh, in the hands of the public sector. They have performed their role, and gradually, even in the public sector ports, privatization was included, and through public-private partnerships, lot of terminals have been given to private operators just because they can perform more efficiently and the cost of business comes down with that. And gradually, over a period of time, the state governments actually who are in charge of the coastline, because all coastline belongs to the states, they then started privatizing their ports in the country, and many of the very fine working ports in the country are now in the category of other than major ports because they belong to the state governments and they are run by a private sector. Adani Ports and SEZ is now become the leading uh, port developer and operator in the country right now. So all the ports have their distinct advantages, and basically ports have come up just because of certain captive cargo. What kind of captive cargo is there, and to cater to the needs of the cargo, the ports have been set up. Like a Mangalore port was set up because the refinery had come, and more ports similarly for refinery purposes. Several ports came up because of the steel industry, iron ore, thermal power plants because coal had to be transported. So depending on the various requirements and needs of the economy, the ports were set up. Gradually, many of the ports became multi-product ports. So Mumbai port actually became a multi-product port long back. When it got established, along with Mumbai, London were the only most deep drafted ports in the world, and Mumbai port for more than a century was the largest port of our country, and lot of textile trade, timber trade, and other kinds of commodities went to and from Mumbai port. Uh, Gradually, refineries were set up in Mumbai, and it started from 1950s onwards. It started catering to liquid bulk trade and chemical trade as well, which is still continuing and forms a bulk portion of Mumbai port. More than 62% of the Mumbai port's cargo comes from liquid bulk. Besides that, Mumbai port has another distinct advantage of having anchorages in the deep sea. And these anchorages actually cater to the industries which are across the harbor, which may be the steel industry or the thermal power plant of Tata's. So, a lot of big bulk cargo comes in big ships at the anchorages, and from there it gets lightered and then gets transported. And we recently concluded our traffic study that whether what can be the traffic of Mumbai port in the Amrit Kal 2047, and that traffic study also proves that there will be some increase in volume at the anchorages even in 2047. This will not come down, and oil, depending on the need of the economy at that point of time, because fossil fuels are getting replaced, but still it shows that in the next 20 years odd, oil will may not continue to grow that much, but still it will plateau down, but the demand will almost remain the same. And if, until these refineries are working, Mumbai port will continue to perform its job. But the redefining role of Mumbai port will be as far as uh, ship repair and shipbuilding is concerned, because that, as part of this conclave, I think this subject is going to be touched upon. India has a big dearth of ship repair and shipbuilding facilities right now. And with the needs of the shipping industry, the way it is becoming green, retrofitting of ships and building of new ships, which will be hybrid technologies, green technologies, alternate fuels, electric ships, all kinds of varieties are being tested, tried. So, across the globe, all major shipyards actually are fully booked now till 2027. That is the situation right now. The way number of ships are going to be replaced is humongous. So this is a very big opportunity for a country like India and a state like Maharashtra. that Maharashtra Maritime Board, Maharashtra government, because there is limitation for Mumbai port or Jawaharlal Nehru port. These are the two ports of Government of India. But other ports, the waterfronts belong to Government of Maharashtra. There is a big need and push for developing new facilities for ship repairs and shipbuilding. It may not be very big shipbuilding, but medium size and small size shipbuilding can take roots in the state, and we should look into that aspect as well. Besides, Mumbai harbour per se has always remained a very important harbour for urban water transport for more than a century. This urban water transport is now also undergoing transformation. Other states in the country are now trying to green the urban water transport, trying to change the way the ships are working right now in very, very archaic technologies, not fully safe as well, and further green technologies. Now, Maharashtra Maritime Board will be taking up the work of Radio Club Jetty soon. I would wish that only green ships ply from the Radio Club Jetty in future, and it gives a new lease of life or a new turn to things to come in future. Similarly, Maharashtra Maritime Board, along with Government of India Sagarmala program, have taken up lot of ro-ro jetty constructions across the Maharashtra coastline, and these, I think, even though we are improving road connectivity, this will be a major factor. Water transportation is going to increase because federal government push is there for developing the inland waterways. So, and I think major push is going to come in future as well in terms of grants as well. And I think state governments are also realized. Maharashtra government, I think, announced in its last budget of giving a push in Thane region, Vasai, Bhayandar, and all these regions. So I believe down below also, as we go down south on the coast of Maharashtra, there will be a push for more water transport. So this water transport, ro-ro, ferries, other passenger ferries, hovercrafts are going to increase in larger numbers, and there will be a big push for greener vessels. So similarly, Mumbai port has for more than a century catered to the shipping services, the service which is needed by the various industries, uh, including the Bombay High across the ships. It is the harbor in the country which has the largest number of service ships in the waters. My very big amount of revenue actually comes from service industry. So this port has to cater to the needs of the present service needs by providing a better ecosystem. And I think Maharashtra Maritime Board and Mumbai Port have to collaborate with each other so that in Navi Mumbai region, where Maharashtra Maritime Board is planning ship repair hub, shipyard facility, along with catering to service industry, because still that region has not got developed as Mumbai got developed. But unfortunately, Mumbai, because of space constraints, those services are not improving. It's not modernizing, and Mumbai will always have that constraint. So we have to look at having very good ship service industry, which provides all kinds of services. We have very good manpower providing facilities in Navi Mumbai region in terms of the training facilities. This also will be another area where when the multi-fuel ships will come into existence, at that point of time, the ship crew will need lot of retraining and new training. So this has already started. Some of the good training companies which are there for a longer time have just started in the last couple of years about retraining. But this aspect also has to be looked at by Maharashtra state. They should take advantage, and with increasing gender diversity becoming the norm in the shipping and port trade as well. This sector was always a male dominated industry. It is high time for Government of Maharashtra to look into some schemes wherein they can bring in more women into shipping industry. It is just not seafaring, but there is logistics industry and other industry as well, where women can be brought into larger numbers, and that is another area which we need to look at. And the multi-fuel thing which you touched upon as hydrogen hubs, uh, though our ministry has mandated that all the 12 major ports and 2 new major ports which will come up near Paradeep, Galathea Bay, Vadhavan, these all will become hydrogen hubs by 2047. Kandla, Paradeep, and Tuticorin will be the initial starters. I believe that Jawaharlal Nehru Port has allotted land for generation of hydrogen for 2 industries in their SEZ, because there is a big demand for hydrogen export and its derivatives. So this is an area where we are looking at through Indian Port Association. We are now incorporating a study uh, that in which ports what needs to be done to cater for hydrogen. I believe Adani ports will give further insights because they have started earlier on this. But multi-fuel is going to be a big challenge for us, and handling, storing, bunkering of these facilities at all the ports, because their government will have to provide the push, because we don't are still not very clear that how much will be demand of ammonia at this port and how much will be the demand of methanol and methane at which port. We have to supply, we have to provide the facilities, and then their demand will come in. These are my some initial thoughts, and then as and when new questions come in, I will pitch in. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for the detailed, informative response. We will come back to unpack some of the things that you've said, but before that, maybe I'll go to Dr. Gursal. Um, uh, Again, some of the things that Mr. Jalota alluded to, the need for, for a shipbuilding push, something that our country can do, given the sort of talent pool that we have of engineers and technical personnel, and also this the is there a broader plan that we're working towards to ensure that this fructifies this plan of taking this forward, no?
6 months back, I joined in the Maritime Board, and with the two top bosses, Sanjay Sethi sir and Jalota sir, it made me very uncomfortable to sit with Jalota sir and share my views, because when I hear him, every time I get a new idea. जहाँ हमारी सोच खत्म होती है वहां से उनकी शुरू होती है. सिटी सर कल ही चार्ज दिया. As said by Abhi, to understand it took me at least 4 months to know the sector. Still, I am not sure that I know it more than 50%. And all here are in that same field. We had a policy in 16, then 19, and it is a stereotype policy, just getting revenues for the government. And a lot of the stakeholders must be knowing it, the constraints faced by them. And then, with our Honorable Deputy CM, Fadnavis sir, and senior officers' input, we need to be competitive, we need to be helpful, and made a lot of policy corrections which will help the stakeholders. Regarding minor ports, the knowledge of a lot of people is just related to having some retaining walls, building some jetties, and tourism. So when I read the act, MMB was forgetting its main mandate of water transport and ports. So out of 100 files, 70 were of tourism only. And we are forgetting our mandate. We will always speak about the constraint why someone is getting ahead. I recently had got an opportunity to attend a Singapore cooperation program, and it was totally different. But they said that it suits our place. Your place conditions may be different. So instead of blaming the conditions, our policy went forward to address the issues. The topic theme was port-led industrialization. We are coordinating with industries also. So because you are the main stakeholders who will be getting and sending the cargoes. So our policy was not related with the industrial policy. So getting facilities, the main change, shift in this new policies, we are graded as per the investment, micro, major, and tuned with the industrial policies. A red carpet for mega projects, and as per the investments, the mode of handing over ports to the private players. We did not, we took care because Mumbai Port and JNP, we cannot compete, but we are fortunate that we are partners in Vadhavan. The coast side, on that side, towards Palghar is different and towards Sindhudurg is different. So the main problem of connectivity, when you start from Sindhudurg, they have to travel to Belgaum and come to Kolhapur. The state government has formalized that we will be the partners in that infrastructure. So a train connectivity from Vaibhavwadi to Kolhapur is getting up in place. The DPRs are ready, and it will surely help the stakeholders. Then highway connectivity is also, the state government is contributing, and it is, the studies are going on. Last month, I had a privilege, being in Maritime, my office close to Jalota sir's office, to have a ride on the world's largest cruise. And today, we have almost finalized a cruise terminal in Ratnagiri. We will be getting the approvals in January, at least, maximum January. So my question was that we could not think what Sethi sir and Jalota sir, क्रूज तो वो लाएंगे, हम उनको रुकने के लिए जगह देंगे. So people will have a round in Ratnagiri, and Ratnagiri and Sindhudurg are the most beautiful places in Maharashtra and in India also. Goa is different, having a different culture. We don't have the culture like Goa, but surely a cruise terminal in Ratnagiri is just 302 crores. There is no problem of funds. That government, everything comes with government. We thank the central government first, because MMB was just a small baby. With Sagarmala, you sent any approval, you will give 50% of money, and that was deposited in an account. It takes time. The constraint, what we faced, that money is not a problem. With the mangroves, environment clearness, it takes around a year or two. And recent judgments that for mangroves we need to again go to the High Court. So now this issue have been streamlined. Now we are familiar with that. So the timing will be reduced in these clearances. We have experts from facing the High Courts and the pollution control boards and other things. So it will give boost to this tourism in first place. Sir mentioned about the Radio Club Jetty. We have issued a tender for that. It is around 220 crores, and that will be finalized before the code of conduct takes place. That's a big project. I did not have a presentation, or it's a short film. We'll share it with all of you. And that was the inspiration of Jalota sir only. Then in tourism, just I will not talk about cargo, and because Jalota sir was told, in houseboats are coming up. Lot of houseboats are coming up. The people are paying around minimum 10,000 per room in the houseboats. There was no policy. So the government has come with a policy, and we are not earning, we are just promoting and creating employment. So already there you will see houseboats in Ratnagiri, Dabhol, Malwan. Regarding RoRo services, when asked in Palghar, the most a place, one of the taluka in the most urbanized taluka, Vasai, Virar. I had to reach the Western Express Highway, then go to Vasai, then come back. It around 2 hours of journey, and I'm very happy to announce that we are starting a new route from Bhayindar to Vasai, a RoRo route. And I visited the spot lot. It is not our rich people, middle class people also matter. You see the Vasai station, Naigaon station. People will migrate for employment. Palghar is the cheapest place to stay. So they stay here and commute to Mumbai. Some go to Mera Bhayindar on their bikes. They put their bikes on the station, travel by train, come back and take their vehicle. Now, these people can take their motorcycles. And the big people can go anywhere, but these people will be traveling within 10 minutes. They will reach Bhayindar. So it will save a lot of traffic congestion everyone has faced on the Western Express Highway regarding to Godbandar. The other is coming up from Virar to Palghar. So it will save around 60 kilometers of drive and 1.5 hours of journey. So Virar will be really connected to the Palghar district. In the near future, all approvals are in place. So RoRo services is our priority at the moment. We had a team from Kerala doing a fantastic job on water taxi, water metro, Kochi. So they are partners, and they will be guiding us. So we are seeing that in Kochi, people go by train, then commute by boats, may take public transport. We were trying in some places here. With regarding to major investors, we have floated a global tender. Because, as rightly Modi ji said, doing business is not the business of government. So, all are free to enter in that. You select the site, depending on the investment. We recently had got a $2 billion investment here, Aprilisha company with the industries we are coordinating, and we are providing them waterfront. A lot of places in Palghar also, transport jetties were planned and the demand has come up. it will take a bit time, but Jalota sir rightly said that gender equality is not established in our industry. So we will take it forward what can be done, because we have a lot of training institute, but we don't have any females in the industry. We are partnering with the training institutes also. Sir said that there is some private training institute in Navi Mumbai. Then the second is Belapur jetties. Belapur, we had auctioned all the and all the agreements will be done till March. So we'll be easing out Mumbai's burden a little. Green energy, other things are placed, but private players need to come. Yeah, some issues, if I'm not so organized like Jalota sir, but you can just add which is some
No,
of it.
on the cruise terminal, are they? Can you give us some more details of what sort of clearances are needed now, and by when do you see that up and running?
Cruise terminal will get the administrative approval within 8 days. The green clearance, if there are mangroves, it's a case specific. Only in mangroves takes bit time. Other issues regarding environmental clearance, it takes just 6 months.
High Court.
Yeah, the Supreme Court in one of our case, I said that the buffer zone, mangrove buffer zone, you need to approach Supreme Court. Supreme Court has given a directions in Palghar case only. That was a landmark judgment. So approaching Supreme Court every time, so they have delegated it to High Courts. And now we are expecting the first clearance in this week. So that will be streamlined in 1 or 2 months. So we need not bother about the High Court, because the studies that the experts are in place. New things take time, but now it is streamlined. The time taken will not be less than 1 year for any clearances. We are also incorporating port with the single window of industries department, Maitri. So they have experts in all fields, and anyone goes to that portal. It's a grievance redressal mechanism. I was the first one to post it there, and Maharashtra is the first state to have an act in place. If the grievances are not redressed in time, there's a committee which will expedite it within a month. So we are entering that too.
And since you're on the podium, maybe I'll ask you one more question on, that's referred to earlier as well. Maharashtra has this long coastline, 720 odd kilometers. You've got two big major ports, but the minor ports are, or the development of minor ports is perhaps not really taken off the way it has in Gujarat. Is there an impediment in how we're sort of looking at these minor ports and how we see them grow into the kind of scale that, say, Mundra has in Gujarat?
As first said, when I visited Singapore port, they said we may be the best in world, but what applies here will not apply there.
Right.
Because Singapore doesn't have a fishing ports. They have banned fishing. So our major concern comes with the resistance of fishermen for any port. Secondly, you see, from the shore to the highway, Gujarat, it's very plain. You visit Ratnagiri, Sindhudurg, you see the construction of road, railway from shore to the highway. it is almost 10 times cost. Gujarat within 10-15 kilometers. And it's a plain one. So conditions are different. You see the depth in Gujarat and you see the depths at lot of places. We rarely find larger depth. We have in Vijayadur, we have a good depth. Lot of dredging activities has to be done here. So now in CIDCO, today it was discussed that some transport is coming from CIDCO, but they put a condition that the dredging has to be done by the operator, which is very expensive. So Honorable Deputy CM said, make it more easy, don't go for income. You've done some investment, it should be of a public use.
And maybe a final question again, because you're there, I thought I'll ask it before I go to Mr. Tripathi. In the aircraft sector, aviation sector, we are looking at MRO, the maintenance and repair as a big business, something that can happen in India viably. In the shipping industry, what is the sort of potential that you see for maintenance activities and
Seaplanes,
yeah.
so in planes, rich people will go, and that are in MPA waters. So not. So first it will have to start from Mumbai. So some issues are there. Will be sorted soon by the government.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
So if I can move to Mr. Tripathi, Adani Ports and SEZ obviously has set the benchmarks in operational efficiency in multiple parameters in Mundra and in other ports that you've subsequently sort of acquired or developed. In terms of improving efficiency levels that have been fairly stagnant for a long time, things like ship turnaround, vessel turnaround times, the crane moves per hour. What really has been the change that was incorporated with Mundra and that you see perhaps being implemented in other ports that you own now?
Well, thank you so much. First of all, many greetings to Lok Satta and to you for organizing a very relevant topic, if I would say. Many greetings to my very eminent panelists over here and to the House. Before I come directly to your question, let me set a context in just about 2 sentences. A country with a peninsular width or expanse or a footprint of more than 7,517, as the government says, is a continuous coastline of India. And the fact that we have a very ancient maritime civilization, both on the east and west of India. And you spoke about the economic power. Today, it's very good to speak about the soft power of India. For a moment, let's not forget, it is trade and commerce which carried much of India, including the scientific discoveries of the zero, for example. It's trade from Western India which carried to the Arab, merchants and thereon to the rest of the world. Likewise, if you look at East, much of the Southeast Asia colonization, etc., through trade and commerce. So the point that I wish to make, trade and commerce are intertwined for the development of a country and a society at large. It's time that India has not harnessed its maritime capability. And when I say maritime capability, it's good that the focus has come back on behalf of the country at large. And we must certainly compliment the present government forces, people like, Jalotaji are driving that entirely. We must compliment to bring this focus back. And why is it so important to recognize the contribution of the maritime sector for the overall development? Before I come down to my mind, a very easy target to achieve. Crane moves per hour, vessel turnaround, easily done. India has arrived. Let me just clarify to you. Whether it's Mundra, whether it's JNPT, the fact that we are on 37, 39 in the pantheon of world ports is encouraging, but not enough. For a country of our size and opportunity, it's not enough. We've not harnessed ourselves adequately. Maritime has the potential not just to develop vessels or ship trade. It has the power to get back to the hinterland. If you're talking of Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, along with the dedicated freight corridor, please understand the forces to develop this originated in JNPT. I say this with a lot of conviction. I was just telling Jalota ji, I was a part of the Ministry of Shipping at that point of time when this entire DFC was conceived in one evening in the house of one very good officer of Maharashtra. I don't have time to go and give my regards to him. So you would know him, Mr. D.T. Joseph, who was DG Shipping, Secretary Shipping. It was in his house that we devised the necessity for getting a dedicated freight corridor because containers were not moving out. So it's not about efficiency over here. If containers had to come to the manufacturing sectors in most of the hinterlands, it's not the port which was conspicuous by its efficiency. It was a hinterland, the ability of railways, roads. So maritime development has the ability to create that ripple effect throughout the country. And that ripple effect will touch lives and economy in a manner not restricted to port development, not restricted to tourism, whose potential is humongous, which CEO MMP just spoke and Jalota Sahab has spoken about it, not restricted what China did. Just get back to 1947. As a student of economic history, I often compare at 47, airports, rail, ports, every aspect, India was much ahead. Please, before we say that we missed out, you must recognize China has a long marathon. Indeed, I'm not here to speak about Chinese history, but the long marathon that started, the long march literally, led to the culmination into the multiplicity of Shenzhens. Today, Shanghai, Yangsan, Ningbo, a port that I visited in the early 2000s, and we would say that it was much behind any of the Indian ports. Today ranks in the pantheon of the first 10 ports of the world. Among the first 20 ports of the world, why does China rank? It's not about ports. It's about China's ability to penetrate the world trade. And at 1.4% of India's share in the trade, and the fact that we were, till the 17th century, a large force in trade, and colonialism led to a certain bit of development, it's time we caught up and just did not speak about it. Now I bring you to the context of Mundra. Mundra didn't happen in this context. Today, when you look at the maritime sector, it's very, very encouraging to note the development and the, kind of the shepherding that is being done to see that today the major ports, and I'm not going to fall into the trap of major versus minor versus non-major, I would just say government-run ports and non-government-run ports, the share is 55 and 45. And by the end of this year, the share will start conceding slowly in terms. It's not about competition. If anything, we must compete on efficiencies. And what is it about JNPT? It's a landlord port. And what is it about Mundra that you spoke about? It's a landlord concept. You must give credit to Gujarat for being ahead in 1993, much before when the country was speaking of the necessity for public-private partnership. And it was necessary because the country had to come out of a morass of a balance of payment development. All of us recollect as a students of, at that point of time, we were all studying. If you come from that context and you see how the PPP has gone and the benefits that have accrued to the telecom sector, to the power sector, to the port sector and large, but it has not penetrated enough in the port sector. So I would not look at the Maharashtra maritime development in isolation to the larger industrial development of Maharashtra. And when you speak of Maharashtra, it's the buccaneer really. It's the if you raise the curtains of modern India, gateway of India is not just gateway for Mumbai, it's gateway for the rest of the country. And Mumbai port with Princess and Victoria Dock and whatnot has been a leading port in the world. Today, it's about recreating that port all over again to the needs of the country. So there comes the context of developing alternate ports. So when you talk of Vadhavan, when you talk of Dighi, please understand, one is north of Mumbai, one is south of Mumbai, which will serve the complex of the industrial forces that will come about. If today, having taken over Dighi, what excites us, not just about the port. Today, it's a port that even struggles to do 1 million tons of traffic. But what do we see? And I must congratulate Government of Maharashtra. Honorable Minister was there. We had him visiting some of the ports in Gujarat. And I must thank him. The moment he came back and the policy was just about to be released, to the Maharashtra Maritime Policy 23, I must congratulate CEO of MMB also, is just before he took charge, is one of the best policies in the country today as far as the maritime development concerned. And we were so excited, it will take us a while, we were so excited that we put in our application so that Dighi, today which is struggling at 1 million, we see its scope in the future. When, please understand, today you are talking of creating a third Mumbai. Why is it so? Mumbai is not just a city. For many places, it's a country in itself. The amount of people that commute here, work here. So when you look at it and the struggle that people do, they deserve a better life. And what is going to come about? In less than 5 years, JNPT at 10 million tons would be entirely choked. Where is the new port? Mumbai is not going to be a container port in that scale. So it is going to be Vadhavan to serve northern industrial development. What is about the south of Mumbai? All the districts lying south of Mumbai and the regions of Pune, the regions of Dighi, and all that. And I'm most excited about the fact that the Dighi Port Industrial Complex being shepherded by government of Maharashtra, and which will be a complex of close to about 6,100 acres of industrial land, and the fact 84% has already been acquired, and the fact that along with Roha, we see an industrial development right from Indapur, right from Agardanda, down along the hills. It's very difficult, as has been told by COMMB, building a railway line from Agardanda to right up to Roha is in the range of 3,000 crores, 30 kilometers. But that's what it is. So why the opportunity comes is that we are extremely close to the industrial region. And the fact that this industrial corridor will become a part of the DMIC. And we've already forwarded to Government of India that the dedicated freight corridor need not, I repeat, need not conclude itself at Mumbai. It needs to go stretch all the way down to Dighi, so that Dighi port in the future, in less than 10 years, we should be looking to attract at least 100 million tons of cargo. Please understand, today, India's share in the world trade it's good. As I speak, it gives me a lot of pride to see that India has done more than 1 billion tons of maritime cargo. You mentioned about it, 90% by value, 70% by 90% by volume, and 70% by value is a great statistics. But if you are just 1.4% of the world trade and you wish to see that your moment has arrived and you wish to be a leader in the world economy and that you are very poised because of your geographical reason and the fact you are bringing out as a part of the G20 and IMECC, is all things falling into place. So therefore, seize the moment, carpe diem as we would say in Latin, seize the moment, get maritime development, do not restrict to port only. Take the forces out, and therefore the dedicated freight corridors, populate them more. The industrial corridors along the dedicated freight corridors, populate them more. Coastal economic zones, because land acquisition in India for a country of 1.4 billion is always a very difficult task because people's sentimental value and the population. So therefore, near the coastline, which are CRZ controlled, have proper environment laws that encourage. I, for one, I'm a great proponent which believes that development and economy, as I say, ecology and economy can coexist if you do both of them together and you do them handsomely well. And they can be done handsomely well. There are many examples. We talked about Singapore. Singapore is reclaiming itself entirely into the sea. If reclamation is permissible there, reclamation will be permissible here. You talked about Mundra. 25 years back, and I wish to congratulate, this is 25 years of Mundra. 25 years back, somebody dreamt it was barren land. And if I may just invite the attention of the House, the ad that we set up on 7th of October, when we completed 25 years, we said 25 years ago, I was barren. 25 years ago, I am India's largest port at 176 million and counting, and 7 million TEUs. And this year at a run rate of more than 7 million. It is not about Mundra port. It's about the exciting opportunities that is open for Indian trade. And the fact that every third container of India routes itself through Mundra is as much pride as it's humility for me. The fact that we can serve the country and the nation. And the fact that near Mundra, you will be bringing up a world-class terminal at Kandla is exciting for us. The competition will complement, and competition and complementarity will lead to the development of the maritime sector, the industrial sector, coastal zone economic sector, gender diversity. I'll reserve my thoughts for that. I'm a great votary of that. And I would certainly say the amount of tourism that has not been exploited. I was just talking to Jalota Sahab. If Dhorodo village in Kutch is considered as a white ran, and for years, when I was rattoing for UPSC, I was just telling him, when we were rattoing for a civil service exam, I used to say there were 4 districts in India which are largest. It was Kutch, it was Leh, it was Bastar, and my home state, Korafut. Korafut has become 4 states, home to the entire bauxite of the country. So the entire aluminium industry that will come to open up. Leh has become a union territory with tremendous opportunities. Just 2 days back, we commissioned one of the highest solar power stations from Leh and connected to the grid. Look at what we are doing over there. And Bastar has nearly become a state of Chhattisgarh, and with this coal and that we have. And Kutch, 452, I always remember it as what is the length of the square kilometers of the district, is the largest district. And the fact that we are building the world's largest solar park over there, solar and hybrid, it will take about a large part of India's industry energy needs will come only from Kutch. And there nestled is a village called Dhorodo, which has become a World Tourism Heritage Site. And we don't run a single, forget about a good train to reach there, no flight to reach there. What could you do to a tourism that I could have somebody sailing from Mumbai in a combined ticket for a 3-day journey on the sea, on the land, and see a port and come back? Indian money stays in India. This is what Amrit Kal is all about, sir. That's what I will say. I'll pause for a moment. I'm aware. I mean, we must, COMMB just reminding me, the bullet train will unleash a bullet of opportunities. When he was speaking, Jalota Sahab was complimenting me as what a fine revenue officer that COMMB. I think we should congratulate him for that, certainly. And Jalota Sahab is very kind to him. He remembers with a lot of regard for that. So the bullet train, which will open a lot of opportunities. Thank you, sir. And DFCC. And the DFCC, sir, should not stay in Mumbai. It has to travel all the length of Maharashtra and 720 kilometers of pregnant opportunities of a coastline. So beautiful. The Western Ghats, as you mentioned, Sindhudurg and districts are so beautiful. They just need to be exploited. If you go to Europe, to some of the places, the tourist destinations that they have is just about clean, good tourism. And that's it. You replicate. If it is anything, we replicate the model that Kerala has shown about God's own country. We replicate similar models all along. What has been a success in India, we don't have to go and search for successes. And India, I always said, is a land of multiple million opportunities. Naraj Chaudhary, you talked about it, land of billion mutinies, but also land of million opportunities. What good is done in one place, let us replicate it. Why are we rediscovering? The zero does not, or the wheel does not need to be rediscovered all over again. Thank you.
Multiple threads there. And before I go to Dr. Nandakumar, just one more question. This combination of a port and an SEZ, that seems to be a good recipe. Is that one of the reasons for Mundra's success? And is that something that policymakers ought to look at for ports elsewhere? I mean, a separate set of perhaps rules for the enclave and, which are distinct from that in the domestic tariff area.
For a moment, let's put SEZ aside. Port-led industrialization first. Okay, so if you were to look, it's actually Maharashtra which has shown the way. When Jalota Sahab was speaking about the multiplicity of the industrial needs that he is actually addressing on behalf of Mumbai Port, that talks about a very intrinsic relationship that industries share, which is restricted not to the harbor of Mumbai only, but also to the multiple anchorage points. So similarly, this symbiotic relationship that industry shares with a port, an SEZ is a legal term to open up a taxation benefit. But first of all, let us recognize nestling an industry along with the port. I just spoke about Shenzhen and he spoke about Hong Kong, and Singapore is different. It's an interchange point between the East and the West. Dubai is different. It's an interchange point, a financial capital. But when you look at China, and if you wish to replicate that, it is an industrial zone sitting with a port. And I mentioned about the necessity to have right environment laws with harnessing what is called a coastal zone regulation management. If you do that properly, Mundra is certainly about a good SEZ, but Mundra is about the fact the port has 40 kilometers of a shoreline, waterfront. 40 kilometers, can you believe? The nearest that can come is perhaps Kandla. And along with that, government of Gujarat was extremely forward-looking across more than, I would say, 25 years. Every successive government kept on parking, and the participation of people, when they understood that this is barren land, the cause of this land can be better used for industry and port, they will willingly come forward to surrendering it. And land, there the land holding is such that large swaths of land and very small ownership holdings. When this happened, we today are very humble to say 40,000 acres, 40 kilometers of waterfront. And these 40,000 acres have spun off what? 2 UMPPs, nowhere you will find Tata Power and Adani Power. A green hydrogen manufacturing which is coming. Solar blades of the largest capacity in the world. Solar panels when India had to stand up for Atmanirbhar. The entire solar industry is being happening over there. And a multiplicity of other industries and a host of CFSs which have an employment generation ability for all the people who participate in the economic cycle. So while the large industries can give you employment to a certain extent, the small multiplicity of CFS, just the way you have in and around JNPT and along Navasheva, so much of employment today has come that you'll be understanding Kutch, one of the least populated districts in the country, has one of the largest employability factor, and most people from India are migrating to Kutch, a land which is forsaken to seek employment opportunity. As I speak to you, much of the workforce in Mundra comes from around the country. Way back when, and we discovered in COVID that we had people coming in right from the northeast, from my home state in Odisha. It was a pleasure to discover all of them over there. So the ability to have industry sitting with this is what we should harness. SEZ is a way of looking at it. As I speak, SEZ Act is changing. From SEZ, we are talking about an act called Desh. That might change. But the fact is, you need to nurture industry. And the first aspect of nurturing is cohabit industry and land along with that with a port. That will make efficiency. Just look at it. In UMPP at Tata Power, for example, the coal lands at the port is taken on a conveyor right inside on high speed. Just look at the cost saving that you've done. Just look at the cost saving that you've done. When you are looking at an anchorage in Mumbai, getting it from a mother vessel into a barge, sailing it out, landing on a small jetty, how many multiplicity of handlings and the cost thereof. If you have to compete, you must look for better methods of handling. And on competition scales, I'm very glad to say we're absolutely in the top, all Indian ports today. My old port at Paradeep, its efficiencies are absolutely world-class in terms of handling what it is done for coal. Likewise in JNPT, crane moves per hour. And whenever JNPT or Mundra set down on crane moves, please remember, it's not of the ability of the crane. A terminal in JNPT, a terminal in Mundra, a terminal in Chennai is as similar as a terminal in Singapore. But what distinguishes and differentiates it is the connectivity. That's what it is. Thank you.
Thanks. Dr. Nandakumar, we've just to get you in, we've heard two policymakers, the biggest port operator. What are the concerns that industry would have? What are the things that you're looking forward to in the coming years?
Thank you. After the talk by the three veterans, practically there is nothing much to speak, but I will throw some challenges which we feel that India will face. First, our GDP today is hovering around $4 trillion. We had a meeting around 1 month back by the DHI as well as the Minister of Commerce. And we said by 2035, we are looking at somewhere around $10 trillion as the GDP. And we can have this $10 trillion GDP unless how we enhance our global value chain. That means we will have an export to the extent of at least $2.5 to $3 trillion over a period of 10 to 12 years. Are we prepared to do by way of the ports, connectivity? That's a big challenge. We need to really work on that. This is one big challenge which I believe, because we can't have the $10 trillion GDP by 2035 unless the merchandise exports enhances. Today, merchandise contribution in the GDP is hovering around 15 to 16. For India's own stability, it should be at least 25% the merchandise trade exports should be there. I won't say GDP, merchandise contribution to GDP. So naturally, the merchandise exports at least will be around 1.5 to 2 trillion by 2035, which our ports should take care of. On this count, I would say, normally the ports' capacities in terms of merchandise is measured in TUs. That means 20-foot equivalent units. We are hovering around, I personally believe it's around 10 million TUs right now. Whereas China is 40 million TUs right now. I'm not comparing China or India, but we can, when we say China plus one or anywhere India need to go, certainly we need to enhance the capability and capacity. That means we have to have a deep drag ports which large ship containers need to be container, because most of the things will come in the container ships. So we need to look at how the existing ports can be, or rather at least new ports can be made to have more larger container ships. That is very, very critical. We have seen over the last 3 years, we have shipping problems with container not available. But I am sure in the coming years, the containers will be much, much longer containers will come. And our ports need to have the capability and capacity to contain this. Along with that, there are a couple of other challenges which is coming in. As Europe is coming up with CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, the marine trade also has come up with what is known as a MARPOL, Marine Pollution Acts, and which means I believe in another 2 years' time, all the ships will have bunker fuel, liquid ammonia, which means our ports should have enough of a liquid ammonia storage. Then only we can attract our international marine coming to Indian ports with the large number of large number of coastal line. And I am sure Indian ports can certainly have the storage facility for liquid ammonia and which is very, very essential. I am sure that it may not be possible in 2 or 3 years' time, but we must look at over a period of 5 years or 10 times. India has the largest liquid ammonia storage in the marine ports so that to attract our ships. That's second thing. And third point is my own sector, which comes from capital goods. Today, if you look at capital goods or any process plants or refineries, takes 4 years, 5 years for completion. Because in today's world, I don't think it is now possible for any investor or any corporate to wait for 5 years for a refinery or a fertilizer plant or a major power plant to come in. Which means companies have now started going into what is known as modular constructions. That means modular construction, instead of coming an equipment like a heat exchanger or a column, it will be total plant and modular will come. Are our plants, are our ports looking at how to handle these modulars? Some of the modular concepts has come already when HPCL Vizag refinery recently completed their expansions. Some amount of modification in the Vizag port has been done. But I am sure in the coming days, certainly Indian ports need to look at how the modular constructed units come into the country so that the time frame for completion of these process plants are much, much lower. And when we say 2030, 2035, we have 10 trillion. We have projected 2047, $30 trillion is our GDP. And on $30 trillion GDP, we will have somewhere around $8 to $9 trillion in the global value chain is coming in. So in my opinion, all the three experts has already spoken much about the enhancing the capability and capacity of these ports. And I must say they should also look at how we can, speed up the digitization process in the ports so that the turnaround, it's already improved. I understand the turnaround time in Indian ports is of some maximum around 9 days. It is much, much better. So still we should look at how we can enhance the turnaround time of the ships in the Indian ports by much more digitization, and at the same time also how greener ports, because we also have adapted by 2047 net zero. 2070 we have adapted, but the whole world is going 2050 is the net zero. So which means we will look at certainly the net zero decarbonization. So we need to look at even all the port related activities are all decarbonated. It's all either on the biofuels or the electrifying all the all the equipments, etc. So we need to look at by 2047 or 2050, all the Indian ports should have the, I would say, net zero facility across, so that then only we can attract the global maritime business to Indian country. These are a couple of my thought process into the industry side. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. If I can come back to Jalota Sahab, one of the key issues that the government at a policy level is trying to address is the issue of transshipment. Almost about 85% of the goods that are transshipped into India come in from either Colombo or Port Klang or Singapore. The development of hubs like Vizhinjam, where Mr. Tripathi's company is involved, and Vadhavan, which is a big, government of India push. How do you see this panning out, and how do you see us getting some share of this transshipment cargo back, volumes back?
In fact, what Mr. Tripathi told, that Vizhinjam they are planning, they will be doing their investments. Vadhavan will be doing. Galathea Bay is being planned and will come up in some years. But what he said was connectivity. Until and unless we improve the connectivity and we have both rail and road coming up together, say we are working Vizhinjam, but if he has problem like Dighi, he has a problem. Connectivity, why Dighi did not take off? Little bit was draft, but maximum was connectivity. It could not take off. Still, they may be in double mind that how much they can invest if the connectivity doesn't get improved. So that is the key thing, and that is what Gati Shakti is doing now. At least those 16 ministries have been brought together, and in fact, for port sector, I remember there are 104 say identified projects, out of which I think 17 or 18 have got completed as well. 44 for major ports and remaining for other than major ports across the country. This was done in 1 year time. Now for these kind of projects, which are future projects, for that also Gati Shakti is planning the connectivity parts. So this gap filling in a dedicated mission mode, when it will happen, and it has to happen, because what Mr. Nand Kumar says is, it is going to happen. We have to reach that much $1 trillion economy. Our exports will rise 4 or 5 times by 2047. So we have to gear up for that, including multi-fuel regime. So this is the need of the hour. All the governments will have to, I think, pull up. Maharashtra government is also now doing its bit, and it has a major role to play along with Gujarat government, because here we have a big coastline and industrial development near the port and related connectivity. I think that is the key, because I was CEO of MIDC 2006 to 2009. That time I mooted the idea ki why we can't develop a port in joint venture between MMB and MIDC. And then we started planning this Rohan Dighi area land acquisition. But somehow we could not. That time MIDC land acquisition rules were much flexible and nimble. Later on, now the land acquisition rules have got much more relaxed. But it is need of the hour that we have to work together. All these infrastructure ministries, the industry ministry, all have to come together and ensure that these hubs get developed, where efficiency is the key, productivity is the key. That is the thing we have to aim for.
So that's a key. Yeah, you want to add something, sir? Yeah.
I would like to bring. I'm not sure many of you know. Larsen & Toubro constructed one reactor for a refinery in Panipat. Do you know it took 6 months to reach from Powai to Panipat? Yes. And there was another one in Pune, constructed one column for liquid propulsion in Trivandrum, ISRO. It took 360 days to reach from Pune to Trivandrum. So there, of course, we need to certainly look at, I fully agree with you that we need to certainly enhance it's not only port connectivity is much important. It's very, very critical. Thank you. And I agree, Gadi Shakti will certainly take care of a lot of hurdles on that. Absolutely no doubt. And yet we need to certainly look at. Thank you.
And also, if Mr. Jalota and Dr. Gursal can throw some light on this vision document 2047, which was discussed at the Maritime Summit as well. Maybe Mr. Tripathi can add later. How is the kind of cohesiveness which you've rightly said is the need of the hour? The fact that all of the ministries and departments and states and state departments are on board and work cohesively towards an end objective. Is that something that's been incorporated into the vision document that we have in place now?
Actually, this vision document came out of Niti Ayog's blue economy push. And then 10 working groups were made by Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways. And those working groups actually included experts from private sector as well, like various private ports, then other ministries, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, because LNG is an issue and petroleum was an issue, then Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Road Transport, Ministry of Finance, because several subjects are related to finance, that can we have a maritime development fund, or various relaxations that are needed because to give a push to shipbuilding or even to acquire ships. And the present regime in the country's financial regime is not that conducive compared to other countries. So all line ministries, private sector, everybody was included. So it is a real sar of nichod of everything which has come in. But one can't say that it is a document that is, yes, it is the Bible kind of thing. It is a work in progress. I think it was stated by our minister in Maritime India Summit that we are looking at revising it every year as it evolves, because we are learning and the things, the way they are changing so much. Digitization. Now Maritime Single Window has kicked in from 1st of January 2024. Are we really able to deliver in that fashion? Whether all the ministries are providing all services through one single window, because I am part of that. The National Logistics Portal Marine is being developed by Indian Ports Association. So we are trying to rope in other line ministries. Then we are trying to encourage even private ports to make use of that. But there are certain issues in that. But fortunately, the present government, its mandate is very clear, ease of doing business. Come what may, we have to achieve that. And for that, anything, I think when our secretary calls a meeting, then other secretaries pitch in. I think tomorrow, the DIPP secretary is taking a meeting in JNP office, Jawaharlal Nehru Port office, calling everybody together that how we can improve certain things. So, government's mandate is very clear. We are willing to take that extra mile in revising our policies with nimble-footedness. I think rest Mr. Tripathi can say, because it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge, but that is the only way we can do it.
If there are any audience questions, we've got 5 more minutes. If we can take questions or yeah. Okay. So maybe one last thing, the removal of the tariff shackle, this whole TAMP and the restrictions that TAMP had imposed on major ports. To what extent is that helping the major ports compete with the minor ports? I mean, that's something that Mr. Tripathi also alluded to, the fact that Kandla's picked up productivity because Mundra is next door, But the tariff flexibility that ports now have, to what extent is that, how much has that helped in sort of, catalyzing competition?
In fact, there were 2 reasons behind abolishing TAMP, just not tariff. Because world over, generally, tariffs in the shipping industry are not controlled. So, like tariff for the shipping, which is much more than what is at the port, it is totally uncontrolled. And people, I think, do what kind of things happened during COVID, everybody knows. That the shipping lines made enough money that they have ordered 400, 500 ships right now without taking debt. So that is a good thing that has happened, because let market determine. And with several terminals coming in vicinity, I think the market forces and the competition will ensure that somebody is not fleecing. If that thing really happens in few years, then generally government can come in again. But I think it is the way it has fanned out. A few, I think 6 or 7 tenders have got finalized after this TAMP regime, and new model concession agreement 2021 has kicked in. And I believe that with the new model concession agreement, basically it has been lapped up by the private sector. It gives enough flexibility and room. And with the conciliation mechanism that has been put in place through Indian Ports Association and Ministry of Shipping, that is also showing results in settling disputes of existing concessionaires, except a few ones where there are certain issues related to change in port cargo and all, which was not envisaged at that time. But the present model concession agreement is really, really flexible, and it is helping both the private sector, because private sector who are actually managing their own ports, they are willing to take up terminals in the major ports. So there is no competition per se. One can't say that we want to compete with non-major ports, and we should not do. Actually, we should be complementing each other, that we have to ensure that at least cost we are able to help the business grow in the country, because country needs to grow at this breakneck speed. So everybody has to work together. There may be some strengths with the major ports, some strengths with the other than major ports. We have to come together to do something. So, but he can tell better, because he has participated in a few bids of major ports for getting the terminals. And I think the new model concession agreement is much better.
I entirely endorse what Jalota Saab is saying. Without a doubt, the new concession agreement and the new MCA, not only, as he correctly identified, relaxes tariff, which is one part, it has created an enabling structure for recognizing things like force majeure. You know, if you had this, if you didn't have this during COVID, you wouldn't just be, and the fact that you're not saddled with something which is extremely straitjacketed. So this is something very, very important for us to recognize, that the new concession agreement is actually concessionary in nature. You know, concession agreements hitherto were frozen in, kind of cast in stone, really. Now it recognizes that there will be changes in the economy, and when it does, you will neither be penalized nor you will win some profits. And market forces are really determining as to how tariff competition is coming about. And you just look at the way the coastline is getting dotted with ports. I'm sure as and when we start handling at Dighi, and one of the things, for example, I should mention, we've just working with the Director General of Foreign Trade, for example, to see that automobiles can also be routed via Mumbai and Dighi. Now what happens? It's not Mumbai port or Dighi port which is going to win or lose. It is trade which is going to win eventually. So when trade has an alternative and says that, look, I am at a competitive best to do, then Indian trade in the world economy, which Nandakumarji has very clearly identified, eventually wins. You know, this is less about a port-led development. It's more about India's economy development. And to that cause, I think all of us has to be there together. And we're in together. You know, when we're doing this Mundra story, you mentioned about it, 25 years we recognized, when it put up, I wanted to use a very strong word, 25 years I was barren, 25 years later I'm pregnant with opportunities. When it wouldn't go, so he said that we have created, we realized in these 25 years, 2,25,000 crores of revenue to Government of India has gone in. Imagine what it has done to things like, the Narega program. And we found the employability. And we found as to what we have done in this 25 years for CSR. And the fact that we revived an art called Namda, which the Honorable Prime Minister then carries it as a pratik of India to the Finnish Prime Minister, a young woman at that, and says, this is proudly done by the artisans of Namda in Kutch. Just imagine what it has done and what the forces go visibly and invisibly. And that is what the maritime sector can create. I'm convinced, 20 years in the maritime sector now, this is something, its time, its moment has come, just the way India's moment has come. Coastal, about harnessing inland water transportation. Jalota Saab knows, and when we actually do things like NW5, and the fact that you can get coal from all over Eastern India into Maharashtra at water transport, which is around the world known to be there. We didn't speak about logistics index. When we started, and this government quite correctly says, Gati Shakti and other these things, that when we started a few years back, we were at 14% of our GDP cost, which is cost going dead cost and making Indian goods expensive in the world market because of delays, detentions, and adding to cost. And today, that is diminishing. And the fact we have come from 44 to 38, and the fact we have done good on matters of infrastructure and procedure, which is the core of all these things. So infra, procedural reforms together in combination, and MCA is just a part of that. And when the MCA actually fosters development, can you think in Tuna, for long, Kandla port didn't have a deep terminal. We were dependent on the Sogal channel and its tide, which would bring vessels. Today, at Tuna Tekra, it's incidental that we are the operator over there. But the fact is, it's also incidental that the second operator over there is going to be DP World, where APSs at DP World fought quite fiercely on a competitive bid. And we recognize as to where we can walk that distance, that we can still answer our loans, be profitable. And then DP World worked a little mile extra. Because for them, getting the world terminals into, I think that was a consideration for a very high royalty that they gave. They thought that this is a very unique piece in their whole puzzle. For us, it was standalone. So the world economic forces and port forces are such which are very beautiful and intricate. I always, fashionably, I tell to myself, as a student of space, we have sent the Endeavour, which has crossed the solar, really it has gone beyond that. We are yet to discover a manned mission to the Pacific deeps. So the ability to explore water and transport is still unknown to man. So it has humongous opportunities, humongous. And the key takeaway today is not competition, it's complementary. And it's not incidental, I'm sitting next to Jalota Saab and rubbing shoulders with him. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Tripathi. Thank you, Mr. Jalota, Dr. Nandakumar, and Dr. Gursal for a fascinating insight into what is a technical sector, but a sector that has the potential to help India unleash its overall growth impetus, and a sector that rightfully needs more focus than what we've seen so far, and which probably has the right people in the place to do it. So thanks so much for the great discussion, and we probably break for lunch here. Thanks. Thank you
so much. Thank you so much once again. ब्रेक घेण्यापूर्वी एक छोटीशी विनंती, एकदा जोरदार टाळ्या सगळ्या मान्यवरांसाठी झाल्या पाहिजे. आणि या सगळ्या मान्यवरांना एक छोटीशी भेटवस्तू आपण लोकसत्ताच्या वतीने देतोय, आणि ती देण्याकरिता मी इथे व्यासपीठावरती आमंत्रित करतो केविन सेंटॉस सर यांना. एकदा जोरदार टाळ्या त्यांच्यासाठी झाल्या पाहिजे. सरांना विनंती आहे. सर्वप्रथम माननीय श्री राजीव जलोटा साहेब, माननीय चेअरमन मुंबई पोर्ट ट्रस्ट. केविन सरांना विनंती करतो. श्री माणिक गुरसाल साहेब, ऑनरेबल CEO महाराष्ट्र मॅरिटाईम बोर्ड. धन्यवाद केविन सर, थँक्यू सो मच. यानंतर मी आमंत्रित करतो लोकसत्ताच्या वतीने केदार वाळिंबे सरांना. त्यांना विनंती आहे त्यांनी कृपया व्यासपीठावरती यावं. त्यांच्या हस्ते सुद्धा आपण 2 भेटवस्तू देणार आहोत. श्री सुब्रता त्रिपाठी साहेब, ऑनरेबल CEO अदानी पोर्ट्स अँड सेज. केदार सरांना विनंती करतो. डॉक्टर नंदकुमार के साहेब आहेत, ऑनरेबल चेअरमन CII महाराष्ट्र अँड CMD केमट्रोल्स इंडस्ट्रीज.